Those are, obviously we have thick and thin iFIX clients, but for those that need the pure web experience, web space and Operations Hub enable that. Centralized management is a big theme, which you can really see start to take shape with Configuration Hub. And the whole point of centralized management is really reducing the total cost of ownership and reducing the complexity, so that you can do all of your configuration and all of your management in one central location. And obviously, as we increase the scale of our iFIX capabilities, we're really trying to reduce the footprint that sits in an IT department, right? So it's very expensive to host virtual machines or bare metal, for example, and we're looking to reduce that footprint, in those IT data centers. And our vision, our overall vision is we want this configuration to be done for your Prophecy portfolio in a central web-based IDE environment. We're calling that Configuration Hub. Our initial releases with iFIX 6.5 and Historian. Other products are going to be leveraging this capability. So that central-based development environment, web-based, which Greg is going to show you, is in a capability called Configuration Hub, just part of the portfolio, not a separate product. The goal would be do your configuration centrally, and then push that down to a SCADA node or Historian, for example, so everything can be done centrally. And then from a visualization perspective, you can see us emerging towards this Operations Hub, which is the dashboard, the capability to view all of this capability, in a single pane of glass, so that you have a single source of truth anywhere, anytime, on any device. That's kind of the grand vision that we've been marching towards and getting closer and closer with every single release. Specific to 6.5, what 6.5 introduces is this concept of object orientation into iFIX. Being the iFIX product manager for about 4 years now, this has been one of the big drivers. We hear this from our channel partners such as GrayMatter, systems integrators, and end customers that say, hey, we really need to take advantage of object orientation. And what does object orientation mean, and how are we introducing that with 6.5? So what we allow is, and Greg is going to show you this, connect to a structured data source like your I/O through your IGS drivers. You can browse that natively inside of this configuration environment. And then you can keep that structure through the Configuration Hub and iFIX as you can create object types, you can create templates, multiple instances of those, whether they're pumps or turbines or lift stations or what have you, and automatically publish at a touch of the button your database tags and your Historian tags. Then, once it's in the database, you can use it in we have a modernized that database manager. That's part of the Configuration Hub. That's a brand new web-based database manager, and Workspace has been updated to support the leveraging that model. You can see your iFIX pictures and your graphical objects like alarm grids or dynamos using that model context, similar to tag groups, if you may. The good news is when you install 6.5 and you update to 6.5 from previous versions, you'll be able to use all the previously built iFIX applications, whether it's custom dynamos or VB scripts or what have you. All of that comes along for the ride, so you can immediately take advantage. You can use the stuff that you've already built, and then over time take advantage of some of the newer stuff. Why is this important? Really, at the end of the day, it's about reducing the time it takes to deploy and develop an application and increasing your productivity. And I think you're going to see that in the demonstration that Greg is going to provide you. So going back to kind of the details of kind of what's in 6.5, obviously the focus is this object orientation and central web-based configuration for rapid application development. The support of modeling. It allows for IGS and OPC-UA browsing natively in the container. We've got a brand new web-based database manager, modern look and feel, improving your productivity, easily being able to filter or find tags. You can see how that looks. Another exciting aspect of this new release of iFIX. It comes along with a brand new high performance HMI sample application, both a water and a food and bev application. You can install this when you install 6.5. It's going to install as a separate project, and you can run it separate from your iFIX project. And what's really cool is coming along for the ride with this sample system is a whole suite of a library of dynamo and high performance objects that you can leverage in your own application. So everything you see in the sample app is part of the core iFIX now. Very easy to use. We also have a number of performance improvements and security enhancements, and we'll talk about those in just a second here. So this configuration hub, this centralized database data management system, think about it as a web server that gets put down when you install Historian or iFIX, and you can register all your different nodes to a single configuration manager. So in a Flash, you can have all of your SCADA nodes through this centralized configuration. And what comes with iFIX and comes with Historian are these things we call plugins. So when you install a specific node and you register, you actually have a plugin that plugs into this centralized database manager. For iFIX, there's three main functions, and Greg is going to demonstrate this to you. One is the connectivity panel. That's where you can look at your sources of data, your I/O, through either OPC UA or IGS. You have the modeling tab, and that model gives you the ability to bring that structure directly into iFIX through the creation of types, templates, and instances. And then the web database manager. Those are the three main functions that are included with the iFIX plugin to Configuration Hub. And what you'll see is a panel type environment. Just a quick screenshot here. You'll see it demonstrated in just a few minutes, but you'll see three panels, and this is the IDE panel layout. So on the left, you've got your navigational panel. In the middle, that's your main working panel. So here it's showing the database manager. And on the right is the details. And if you're familiar with the database manager, that details tab will look at the tabs that are available to you in the database manager. You can organize these tabs. The IDE environment allows you to kind of lay out these tabs anywhere you want. You can dock them. You can put them in different formats. It's a very common development environment that we've embraced. So that's kind of a sneak preview of that, and Greg will show it to you. The sample system, I just spent a few minutes on. Very nice. Sample system based on the high performance HMI. You'll see a lot of grayscale. You'll see these elements that really allow the operator to see what's going on very quickly in his environment. So it improves their time to value. As a integrator or as a partner, you can use this system to demonstrate the iFIX application to your customer base. As an end customer, you can look under the covers and kind of see what's happening and how these things are wired together and how you might be able to use them in your own application. So from a high performance HMI perspective, now there is a very nice getting started guide and a whole section we've added to the iFIX ebooks on how you might operate and interact with this. So I won't go into a lot of detail here, but from a conceptual standpoint, when you look at these screens, the navigation naturally flows left to right. As I said, these elements use a lot of shades of gray when things are neutral, and we just use warmer colors like red and yellow to draw your eye to the attention of things that may be in some type of an alarm state. And we repeat these elements to provide structure and to reduce operator strain. So it's a great example of the execution of the high performance HMI standard. And all of this is native to iFIX. These are just some of the elements that are included in the library now. When you look at your Dynamo folder, you'll see a bunch of subfolders with a bunch of dynamos in there. Very easy to wire up to your I/O and your iFIX data points. So really have increased the capacity of the libraries, and I think you'll see not only the vertical gauges and pumps and valves, but things like control cards and toggle switches that you can easily repurpose in your own application. So very exciting development for iFIX. Just a quick word on the security enhancements. Probably one of the bigger changes when you actually install iFIX, you're going to be asked to install in secure mode. And we've done this to reduce the security potential vulnerabilities that are out there in terms of shared folders, memory, and registry settings. So just be aware that if you're very comfortable with the existing iFIX install, there's a couple of nuances. It's going to ask you for client secrets. The client secret is important if you're installing multiple iFIX nodes to talk to a single configuration hub. So remember that. And we do have a secure deployment guide that's available. If you're interested, you can go to our support website, just search for SDG, and you can bring it down, and it will help you not only with application level security, but also operational ideas to keep your place safe and secure. Other updates, obviously the Operations Hub has been updated to support the OPCOA server for iFIX, so you can integrate the iFIX 6.5 build into Prophecy Operations Hub. We've improved the tag creation for OPCOA client driver if you've been using that. And kind of one of the big sims we did over the year, and we put it into the 6.5 build, is if you're working with large databases, the import performance was relatively poor when you got to 30,000 tags, right? I don't know if you're even aware of it, but we did introduce a sim last year that as you do the import, you're going to see vast improvement in import time. So if you have large databases and you haven't used this sim, it's natively now in 6.5, but keep that in mind, that that's a huge, vast improvement in the import performance of large databases. So just a quick note on some of the complementary solutions. Prophecy Historian 9.0 was introduced. There were some early challenges with UAA and some other things that are being modified. We expect this to be reintroduced shortly, but Prophecy Historian 9.0, and I think that there's going to be a emPOWERUP seminar on this in a week or so, so I won't talk too much about it, but this uses the same configuration hub capability to do remote collector management, but I'll let Steve Pavlovsky talk about that to you next week. One of the things I did want to mention, we just released an update to our Win911 capabilities, very exciting. We have, obviously, the Essentials comes free with your iFIX or your Simplicity SCADA node, should you want that option. There is a for fee, not for free, for fee option called Ultimate, which provides greater notification up to 255 users and some greater capability. With that, we've rolled out an annual term option that allows you to have a mobile capability. Very exciting. I think we have a customer, a GrayMatter customer, that's using this today in a demo environment, which basically they're getting their most important alarms set to their phone, and they can connect with their coworkers. They can acknowledge the alarms and interact with the alarms, but also talk with their coworkers and text, which streamlines decision-making and promotes team problem solving on the side. It's a very low annual fee for really getting your most important alarms notified to you on your mobile application, and it's on an annual term basis. Happy to have more conversation about this, but I did want to point that out. In terms of the roadmap, just before we turn this over to Greg, as I said, we've been on a journey, and we've started with 5.9. 6.5 is not the end-all, be-all. It's where we introduced the configuration hub and the modeling capability, but we have a great journey planned out to continue to grow those particular areas. So if you look from left to right, one of the areas of focus is to continue to increase the scale of our HMI SCADA, and what we mean by that is more tags and more clients per server, really. So that's what we're looking at, is how do we enable more tags and more clients on a server to reduce that infrastructure that's in those IT data centers, and so you can consolidate down to single SCADA that can handle more capability. That's what the highly scalable HMI SCADA is. In terms of the IoT HMI build once, deploy everywhere, yes, workspace, web space and Operations Hub support that. But we're working on a native web-based template HMI designer for more capability. So basically, you can create once and deploy anywhere, regardless of the platform that it's running on. Centralized data management. This is where we're going to enhance the capability Greg's going to show you in just a moment's time. So thinking about an enterprise model works across all of the capabilities and a lot of enhancements to the model that we weren't able to get to with 6.5. So pretty excited about that. And in terms of remote operations, we are looking at testing Historian Simplicity iFIX that they run actually in an Azure cloud to support kind of cloud-based operations. So those are some of the things. We do have a planned portfolio release coming out at the end of the year where we'll be addressing many of these things. We're still kind of in the finalized planning stage to kind of say what's coming, but we should have another drop later this year. And with that, Greg, I think we're off to you, and take it away.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think everybody can see my screen now. This is Greg Hazel. I'm a solution consultant here at GrayMatter Systems, and I'm here to introduce Configuration Hub. This is part of iFIX 6.5, as Scott said. It is included in the product. And what I'm going to do is show you a demonstration of Configuration Hub. So back to the workspace that we're familiar with in the iFIX environment. And under the Applications tab, you'll now see Configurations Hub. And what that will do is bring up your Configuration Hub environment. This is a brand new web-based interface. So it gives you the ability to configure the iFIX database anywhere without having iFIX installed on that particular machine, because we are hitting a web server to do that. Within inside of it, what you'll see is three types in the iFIX environment. We have connections, models, and the database. Okay, so if I look at my connections, what this is connections directly into our OPC UA client as part of iFIX, and also our IGS driver. Many users are using our IGS driver, and this will allow us to browse and navigate the IGS environment. If I pull up my screen right now, you'll see that I have the IGS running, and within the IGS driver, I have a hierarchy created of my tag structure. So we're using structured tags. This is very common with the new Emerson RX3i controllers and other symbolic controllers out there. We have a structure called water treatment plant, wells, and pumps. So within the pump, each pump has an attribute associated with it. You see it has a run, a speed, feedback, speed set point, speed command. So that's a structure within inside the environment. Getting back to the Configuration Hub environment, we're going to go and actually browse that structure. So I'm under my well here, and as I browse, you'll see a new tab comes up, and that would allow me to select particular points to be published within inside the iFIX environment. So if I want pump 1 and 2 and pick a few structures around that, I can go ahead and do that. Or you can right click and say select all children, clear all children, that type of thing. So it makes it very easy to manipulate through your tag structure. Once you have your tags selected, you simply go into the stage tags area. And what that will do is let you stage your tags for publishing in the iFIX environment. Okay. In here, this is pretty nice. You can trim your tag. So maybe I'm not in a water treatment plant. Maybe this thing is in a wastewater treatment plant. So I can change the prefix dynamically using this function right here. You can also search through your tags. You can add it to your historian. You can use the pull down to select different tag types. As I go through there, I can say create tags, and you'll see right here it says 8 tags are created successfully. Within that, I would look at my database tab. I'll do a quick refresh there, and there's my tags that just showed up. I can go ahead and filter on that if I only want certain tags. it dynamically filters. You'll notice one thing on the side here. There's icons indicating whether it's published or it's unpublished or published or it's been modified. So you can modify your system through here. As I go through and select my tags, I'm going to publish certain tags. So I'm going to grab my tags right here, and there's a publish button up top, and the publish button will actually send it to the iFIX database. So here's my iFIX database up, and you can see there's no tags. There's a couple tags in there for. And we'll go back into Configuration Hub, and we'll go ahead and publish those. And what that is going to do is dynamically publish those tags in the iFIX environment. So as you see, I'm going to do a quick refresh of my database, and my tags were just created for me. This is just a giant time saver. No more browsing for individual tags, no more typing in these very long structures. Very quickly, you can build up your tag database using a simple browse of the IGS driver or the OPC UA driver, and then publish your tags. Once they're published, you can still go back inside this environment here, and you can modify the tags and republish them. If I remove my filter, you'll see that I have all my tags here, and they're published. So that's a quick way to go and look and publish some tags out of the IGS driver. Again, giant time saver. This does not affect the running database, meaning it publishes the tags while the database is running. It will not affect your running SCADA. So I'm going to go back into connections and hit browse again. And this time, I'm going to select my structure here, and I'm going to right click. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a type. So Scott talked about instances of types. So here, I'm going to create a type, and we'll just call this type variable speed drive pump. And we can give it a name. Variable speed drive pump. And we'll go ahead and create that type. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to go to my models tab, and we might need to do, you'll see that I have different types, and also under types, I have instances. Okay, so types is where you actually define your variable type, your tag type. And you do that by double-clicking in here, and it will bring you into an editor for your type. So in here, I'm going to go into my object template, and we'll create a template around your type. Here, the power of using a type is we can do dynamic substitution of the tags. So I'm going to go down at the bottom, and I'm going to call this as my this will be my pump number. And in there, we're going to give it a default value of a number 1. And we're going to go ahead and use that with inside our tag. So here, I'm going to pick my running command tag. And as you see, my tag structure came over from my browse. I have my description. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a placeholder in here and the substitution, and we'll call that pump number as well with the brackets around it. And what this is going to end up doing is for my instance, it's going to allow me to substitute this dynamically anywhere I have that substitution. So here in my IO address, I have pump 1. We don't want to call that pump 1. We want to call that pump substitution number. And so that's what it will do. I can also set other attributes. Maybe this pump in the open state is stopped. and then in the one state, it's in the running mode. You can set all the different attributes of the tag right here just by browsing through. These would be all the fields of the tag, so I want to enable output on this one if it's a control point. And you can do that through any of these areas. Let's go into our speed now, our speed feedback maybe. And again, I go into my speed feedback, and instead of actually hard coding it, we'll paste in our number here, our substitution number, and good to go. So it's going to substitute right in that address space. And again, you can put multiple substitutions in here. I'm doing this one for the actual piece of equipment, but certainly you could put the site or process area and so on. And this one will give some alarm limits on here. So there's your alarm limits for your type. And again, you could change this to an analog alarm tag if you wanted, and so on. Okay, so once we have that done, we can also turn off certain tags if we don't want the feedback or we don't want the set point. We can turn those off right here, and good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Once you set up this structure, it's reusable. So a lot of times you'll have variable speed pumps, you'll have valves. You can get pretty sophisticated with setting this up. Once that's done, I'm going to save it. I just saved it. And then we're going to go up here to the three dots, and we're going to actually create an instance. So we're going to call this, we'll call this pump 1. And give it a name here. And we're going to go ahead and create that instance. Okay, and let's go ahead, and this time I'm going to go in here and we'll change the instance over here. And we'll call it pump 2. And before I do that, I'm going to change my value over here to what I meant to do. And we'll go ahead and do that and save that. And that will just set my instance as I publish this thing. And we'll add another instance for pump 2. Okay. So that created a couple instances, and you're asked what is instances. If I go back to my model now, what I'm going to do is you see my types. And then since I created these 2 pumps, there's my instances of that particular pump. Okay, so there's my variable speed I just added with pump 2 associated with it, and pump 3. If I wanted to change the value here, I could do it after the fact by going into the value at the bottom before I actually publish these, and it will index and change the substitution in there. So as I go in there and change this to a 3, you'll see the pumps will take on the number that I put in there. So you can dynamically do that after the fact, so you don't have to do it while you're building your model. So basically I have 2 instances going. And you'll see that they are unpublished at this point, unpublished. And if I looked at my database manager right now, we're going to go back and you'll see I have 2 unpublished pumps, and they have certain attributes associated with it. And again, I could change the name here, etc. We'll go ahead and publish these guys. And there's my database manager. As you can see, I don't have any pumps created yet. and we'll go ahead and publish those. Okay, once they're published successfully, I can now go into the database manager, and we'll give it a little refresh here. Then you'll see that I have my 2 pumps created and an index. And now we'll go in and go into the database, go into the workspace. So within the workspace, you'll see that I can also add that instance into a substitution inside my workspace. So as I go in there, and I can pick a type. So we'll just go into our high performance dynamos, and we'll pick our pumps here. Drop our pump on there, and within our pump, we're going to browse for the particular tag. And as I go through that tag, I'm going to pick my my pump 1 command start, and pick the FCV value of that tag. And within that FCV value, it will be added and dynamically set to this pump. Here, I'm going to use my placeholder again. I'm going to use my @ symbol and put in my substitution again. This is my pump number. And here we're using the symbol function, kind of like tag groups in iFIX. We're going to use that symbol number to substitute that particular attribute of the tag. Okay, so as I click on here, it's going to do a substitution of that tag. All right, we got that pump and the command button. And we'll go ahead and we'll use, we'll put down a data link as well. So we'll go in here and insert a data link stamper. And we might go in here and pick that tag. And here we're going to use the description of this guy. Actually, we'll use the current value of the tag. So we'll just use the ACV value of the tag, and I still have that placeholder in there. So go ahead and stick that down here. And finally, we'll go into our high performance dynamo set, and we'll use the speed indicator. And with the speed dynamo, we'll go ahead under our gauges, grab our dynamo set. And this time I'm going to browse for my speed tag. So here's my speed feedback tag, and we'll pick the current value for that. And again, you can write in here, if you have your pump your symbol here, you can stick it in, do it right through the interface here. Okay. Okay, we got our pump number and our speed feedback set. Say okay to that. Now we're going to add that symbol. Instead of creating a tag group like we have done in the past, we could simply insert a data link, or maybe a push button or something, and we'll set that value. So this is going to be my pump 1. And within my pump 1, we can right click, and we're going to actually use one of the new functions that we have inside the iFIX environment. And that iFIX function is going to be set right here where it says set symbol value. So instead of creating the tag group file like you normally do, you can set up the symbols inside the picture itself. So no longer do we have to build the tag group file. We can dynamically do multiple substitution right in the picture. Say OK to that, say OK to that, and we're good to go. Once I'm done with that, we'll go ahead and save this picture. This is the demo. And we'll go ahead and run that guy. Now, when I hit it, you'll see that I now have, it will now populate the pump with that, with those variables. If you wanted to do another pump, you could simply go in here and I could duplicate that. And then in my instance, just change this to a 2. I could go into my Visual Basic script or go back into my wizard itself and change the value here to 2. And now it will allow me to change between pump 1 and 2 dynamically using that substitution. If you wanted to make that work as the screen opens up, you can simply take the substitution script, which is right here, and copy it into your initialization script. So I'm going into the initialization script, and we'll put that in there, and it will default for instance number 1 of my pump. So quickly as I go in, now it will populate with that instance. Finally, the last thing you can do here is within the object, we had our instance name. You can also apply that to the alarm summary object. So within the alarm summary object, I go in here and we have a new filter under filters. And this filter is called model context. And you can now filter by your model context. So right here, I got the context in here, pump, and that will filter your alarm values by context as well. So again, it will pertain to tags, dynamos, scripts, anything on your picture. No longer do you have to make tag groups. Just go ahead and run that, and apparently I don't have any alarms, but maybe in the breakout session we'll have some alarms for you. But that will allow you to dynamically filter this by context, by whatever substitution that you're doing. And if we make this large enough, you can probably see the substitution down here at the bottom. So very quickly, this configuration hub makes configuring the database much, much simpler. You can see it builds your tags in a structured fashion. The other more powerful feature of this is as I go into the configurations hub under models, you can have something that is a contained, let's see, I think I have one of these, my well site. So within my well site, you can actually have contained types. This is super powerful when you have a piece of equipment. Let's say I have a well site, and that well site might have a level indicator, a pressure indicator, and might have a motor. In this particular example, I have types called variable speed pump, and then I have a type called motor. These are contained types within a type called well site. So now as I build out my types up top, I can use them inherently in other types. So no longer do you have to have just a single instance that is part of a particular piece of equipment, but you can actually build a whole asset using Configuration Hub. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think GE has done a fantastic job with this. It's just a giant improvement. For people building new projects, system integrators, this is just a giant time saver. And it gives you consistency when you're structuring and building a tag database. So that's what I have. Appreciate everybody from watching. Jeremy, any questions or comments?
We did get a few questions, Greg. Yeah. And Scott, if you want to join us, we'll take about 5 minutes here and dig through some of these questions. But just as a reminder, there is a breakout session after our cybersecurity presentation. So, if we don't get to your question, that's a great opportunity to get with that. So I'm going to start with just a few here. So regarding the Center Data Management Manager interface, one of our attendees is saying they have around 110,000 IOs from 7 SCADA servers. Can it handle that many tags?
Yeah, so actually I think there are two different questions. So I saw that as you got 7 SCADA nodes. So yes, you can have 7 SCADA nodes register and use the same configuration hub utility. So that's not a problem. I would suggest that if you were to try to condense that into a single SCADA node today, that's probably on the size it's in scale that you'll start to see performance degradation. So I think our intention, so our long-term vision is 1,000 clients and 1 million tags in a SCADA. Now we're not going to get there this year, right? So I think our initial goal is something on the size of 250,000 tags and 300 clients. But in terms of 6.5 today, I think in terms of registering 7 separate nodes that have a total of 100,000 IO tags, you'd be perfectly fine with that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Scott, and I think you made a good point. Configuration Hub can be used with multiple SCADA nodes. So I could pull up different nodes if your plan is distributed, all through the same web interface.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question we got from Jim. Can you cover just some of the security enhancements with 6.5? I imagine that's something that more than one person is wondering about.
Yep, I saw a few of those questions, and it's a good one. So we, with the release of 6.5, we did release a security advisory. I won't go into too much detail on what that was all about, but we both internally at GE and externally, there are folks that look at each release. And it's a moderate level, not a high or a critical. We fixed the install to limit those vulnerabilities. They're long-standing. They weren't introduced with 5.9, 6.0, 6.1, or 6.5. These are vulnerabilities that have been in the product for a long time. Only accessible to someone that has access to the SCADA node and credentials on the system. So think about it. You now have the nefarious character inside the castle, inside the moat. But what we did was we locked down the install and the use of the SCADA to those that are on approved Windows directory or a Windows group. So when you install in secure mode, you've got to make sure the users belong to that particular group that you've approved. And so we've locked down things like access to shared files and folders, registry settings, and shared memory. So what the vulnerability notice said is probably not worded the best, but understand lawyers and security folks tend to take a very conservative view of the universe, right? So they said, hey, if this is concerned, upgrade immediately to 6.5. Understanding that's not practical in all manners. There's the other things you could do is we do have a secure deployment guide that has been recently updated. You can go to our support portal and just search for SDG and download that secure deployment guide. If you follow those manual steps that we identify, that will take care of probably 2/3 of the issues, although there's still some outstanding issues you can't do without installing 6.5. The secure deployment guide also outlines some operational procedures that if you were able to follow those should reduce your vulnerabilities. So certainly upgrade when you can, or use the secure deployment guide to minimize your the vulnerability exposure that you might have, and take manual steps such as make sure passwords aren't on a yellow sticky pad stuck to a monitor, right?
Always a good idea.
Always a good idea. And I think Scott Christensen will be talking about security.
Yeah. He does talk about the sticky notes for sure. Greg, this one might be for you. How does the hub handle multiple users on the same database?
I think 2 users can publish in the same database.
Okay. Yeah, you can have multiple users. Obviously, there are log files. Greg, I don't think you demonstrated, but when you publish, there's a log. Actually, you saw the log file being generated. So you can see what changes were made by who. I would say that at this point, the last change does win, right? So if you have two people making, adding the same tag, the last change does win. One of the things that we are adding is a more change management capability, and so that's kind of a future roadmap item. But yes, it definitely supports multiple users.
I'm going to keep rolling through a few of these. So is the recommendation to use Historian 9 with iFIX 6.5?
So I actually use Historian 8. So Historian 9 was actually released but pulled back due to some other reasons. So Historian 8 and 7 were tested, but we tested 9 as well. 9 and 6, Historian 9 and 6.5 both will ask you if you want to install the configuration hub. And so it's only the version of Historian 9 that leverages configuration hub at this time.
Okay. And Greg, I think this question came up while you were giving your demo from Steve. Does this publish in both active and standby databases?
Yeah, what it's going to do is it just like when you configure a redundant system within iFIX. When you're configuring this, you're going to be publishing to your primary SCADA node. You can be in a mode that as I publish in here, the synchronization will automatically publish those tags to the backup machine. So you're publishing to the active primary node, and that will then synchronize the tags with the backup system.
Gotcha. Okay. Clear. All right, guys. Well, we have other questions, but I just encourage people to hold on to them and bring them to the workshop. And we can also follow up afterward if need be. But I think we've covered a lot of ground today in a pretty short amount of time. So thanks for taking us through it. And we'll continue this discussion in the workshop right after our cybersecurity presentation. So Greg and Scott.